D2L during my office hours, but this would be a good thing to use, especially if you need to have a bleed for each of your individual cards. This is based off of actual playing cards, so there's some outlines here to show you if you were to. Did you say this outline, the inner one
the
is?
The inner one that you're on right there is exactly the same dimensions that you have with 3.5 and 2.5.
Okay. So they're just different bleed lines, basically. And then this dotted line is a good place to have your margin. So you wouldn't want any text or any detailed parts of your illustration extending beyond that line.
Is that going to be on, you said it's on D2L?
Yeah, I'll post it on there. It'll be up there by, let's say, noon. There's also a template already up there on D2L. It's called Cardbox Template. Any file that has AIT is a template file. So when you download that and open it up, you'll automatically get a new untitled document so you can work directly inside of it. But you just have to make sure you actually save it with the name that you want to use, because otherwise you'll probably forget the name of it and not know where to find it. So on here, I've got the magenta lines, and those are going to actually print these lines out. But I would suggest either turning off those layers before you go to print, or making the lines a different color, something closer to the color of your background so that they're less apparent. For example, I think this student, when she did the lines, for the most part, she had deleted the lines, so they weren't the front and back of the box. She has a box actual outline, so that might have helped her with stuff. Let's say in my art layer, I'm going to go ahead and put in some color to start. Maybe not that color. About that being on the outside of the box. With standard playing cards, usually they'll have one side of the box that actually shows what's on the back of the cards, and that's what this student did. But other students had a pattern they came up with, and they used that for the cards. They used the texture that they had developed. But you'll need to think about the whole surface, all of the surfaces of the card box, because this is going to be a package. This student, for example, came up with a title inside out, and then just says standard playing cards. Then, like I said, the back of the box is the back of what's on her cards. She put something on the top of the box, and then she made sure that the texture was all the way around. So even though there wasn't stuff on the sides, they still seemed considered. They didn't seem like they were just left blank. Type features just like you would in Photoshop or InDesign or even Microsoft Word. But you can just type in whatever text you're going to have for the front. You need to think about composition, size, text. Have it be on the front of the box and the back of the box. And I can use the rotate tool to turn it. On there. Let's say I want to start to edit the text. If you want to do a lot of more complex editing to your text, I would recommend converting it to outlines. So if you go up to the type menu, go down to create outlines, and it makes the type into vector objects. And so now that they're vector objects, I could actually I could go in, put in gradients, I could put in my patterns if I wanted to. It'd probably be too busy, but the point being that you could do a lot of things that you probably wouldn't be able to do with the text as a standard text. Maybe make it a little bit more subtle. They'll automatically be set up as template layers, so they'll be locked and you won't be able to edit them. But if you double click, so it's just barely apparent. It's enough there to tell me where to fold everything. Same with the cut lines. Not quite as apparent. Now this template is what this student used to make her cards, but it's a template. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. The main object is that all of your cards fit snugly inside of here. So if you want to, you might decide that you want to have it open a different way. You might want to print out this template first, figure out how everything folds, and then make edits to it depending on how you want it to open up. Let's say this flap here at the top, you want it to be rounded instead of coming to a point. You could go in with the pen tool and the convert anchor point tool to make a curve. You could do that with the flaps here as well. Another thing you're going to need to think about is the width of your stack of cards. So you definitely are going to want to make a dummy of your cards, and you can just print that out in black and white. But when you go to finish your stack of cards, you're going to want to cut them all out and figure out the thickness of them, because that's going to determine how wide your box is going to be. Obviously, if you use a really thick paper, then your box is going to need to be wider. To adjust that, you would go back to the template and make adjustments to the widths on the box. So most of that is going to be in this first template layer, the one that says cuts and folds. So all of these boxes are individual boxes. You could just use your direct selection tool and select the points along one side and move those sides so that it's wider. You need to adjust 4 sides, so it'll be this long side and this long side, and then the top and the bottom. So this box here, and I'm actually just going to duplicate it and rotate it, bring it up to the top. And adjust that for the top one. I can get rid of that one because I don't need it. Do the same for the bottom. And then I would do the same for this other side. I'd also need to adjust the flaps, but as long as I'm using Smart Guides, that makes it pretty easy. I just have to adjust the width so that it snaps to the new width of the side of the box. And then I can also change the width of this tab on the very end here. More than likely what you're going to want to do for the bottom of the box is actually glue all these tabs together so it's really nice and solid. And then where the tab on the side of the box meets this outer side, you'll want to glue that too so it doesn't come apart. The only part that's going to be open is this very top one with the flap. And this is actually just a letter size sheet of paper. So you could just print this out on obviously a letter size sheet of paper and trim it from there. If you have to make a whole lot of adjustments, you might have to move to a bigger sheet of paper, but I can't imagine you needing to use a bigger sheet unless you're just doing something really elaborate with how it folds. So that's pretty straightforward. It's actually probably less complicated than printing the cards out. You can, like I said earlier, you can consider the inside of the box. So if you want to make a pattern or something, you would do the same thing that you would do with the backs of the cards. You could export it as a PDF, have one page with just your pattern as a full bleed, and then the other page would be your box template. And so then when you fold it and put it together, all the pattern would be inside. So when you're ready to go with this, I would save it first as an AI file. And then, like I said, save it again as a PDF. So are there any questions about the box template? This template should already be up on D2L, and like I said, I'll put the card template up on D2L this afternoon so you guys can have that. All right? So for next Wednesday, let's see, we're already getting into October. So over the weekend, you guys need to continue working on the first suit of your deck of cards. And for today, you're supposed to have full sketches of your cards so you can start scanning those in and rendering them in Illustrator. When you come back on Wednesday, you should have that first set due so we can actually have an in-progress critique and you guys can see what each other is working on. With that first suit, you should have your color palette finalized. You should have a style figured out so that when you go and complete the rest of your cards, you know what you're going for and pretty much you're just swapping out colors and symbols. You should also be thinking about the card box itself, what that box is going to look like, how it's going to fold together. You might, over the weekend, want to actually print out the template just on the laser printer and see how it works, and figure out what kind of elements are going to go on the box to make it into a really nice introduction to your card set. So for the rest of class, you guys just need to keep working, and I'll come around. If you guys have a question, just stop me and feel free to ask, okay?